Well, as anti-Israel protests continue throughout the world, we've seen alarming events taking place against Jewish people on nearly every continent. Last week, Canada saw a wave of anti-Jewish attacks on campuses. Here to speak with us is the former director of Canadian campuses for a leading pro-Israel organization and Jerusalem Post journalist, Zina Rakhamilova. Zina, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's cut right to the chase. What's happening on campus in Canada?
So first off, thank you so much for having me, Emily. And what's happening not just in Canada, but as you said, almost in every continent, is we're seeing that what's happening across the world in Israel, Jewish people and Jewish students particularly are dealing with the ramifications of it. You mentioned Concordia University, and for anyone that didn't see that really shocking and scary video of a bunch of students that were trying to host a campaign for the 240 hostages held captive by Hamas in Gaza. And a mob of Hamas supporters stormed in, started chanting, harassing the students, at one point grabbed the flag and got very aggressive and violent. We also saw that video of the same campus at Concordia where a student was yelling and shouting and used a derogatory slur towards Jewish students. She's now saying that she never said it and she meant a different word, even though there's video evidence of her saying that word. The following day, McGill, which is just a 2-minute drive away from Concordia, hosted a rally as well. And the flyers for that rally actually had photos of broken glass. And it was right around the time of Kristallnacht. So It's very scary what's going on. And, as shocking as it is, my previous experiences working with those campuses specifically, I'm not surprised at all.
Well, I wanted to ask you, you yourself were a student on a Canadian campus. You dealt with these kinds of scenes even years ago. So how was your experience different than what we're seeing now, or was it?
It was more or less the same. That's why I wasn't surprised. At one point on the campus that I went to, York University in Toronto, Jewish students had to barricade themselves and lock themselves in. We just saw that recently with the photo circulating, I believe it was from a New York campus, where the students also had to barricade themselves. We couldn't walk around campus at York University without some sort of anti-Israel sentiment going on. We couldn't have a cultural event without the Israeli flag being defaced overnight. With Concordia and McGill, again, specifically, I ran a program there with some of the students that were my interns. At McGill, we hosted a beautiful mural that was about peace and coexistence. Students were able to come in and write positive messages. Within an hour, a mob of anti-Israel students had texted each other. I watched them text each other, and they came to block our mural and held signs with very toxic messages. So what was supposed to be a positive experience, a positive campus program that was supposed to talk about peace and coexistence, turned into a hate fest. Hours of a hate fest. They stood in front of our mural for hours. The following day at Concordia, when we were doing another program, someone ripped our Israeli flag from the table, ran out, and my student and I had to chase her. In the Montreal winter, we had to chase her, and she trashed our flag. We had to call the police, and it's nuts what's going on.
This was years ago.
This was years ago.
So what has been done since then? Where is the administration? Where is the government, if relevant here in this discussion?
Well, I want to take it a step further, a little bit just outside of campus. And again, we're talking about Montreal specifically, but this is happening everywhere. Last week, a rally was hosted in Montreal with an imam who chanted a prayer that called for the destruction of all Zionists. What happened afterwards? A bunch of Jewish facilities were, there were firebomb issues there. And then a bunch of Jewish schools, 2 Jewish schools, I believe it was in Montreal, overnight, they found bullet holes at those schools. And so again, we're seeing this vile anti-Semitism happening because of what's happening in Israel. What's being done exactly? Well, I know there, organizations, the local federations and advocacy groups like CIJA, they're working with the police at the highest level to ensure the safety of students and trying to get people to actually condemn what was going on. But the reality is, and this is for everywhere, both in the US and Canada, that it's a Band-Aid to just add more security to Jewish institutions. There needs to be a zero tolerance policy when it comes to hate. You cannot use the K word against a Jewish student and get away with it. You cannot call for the destruction as an imam in a public area, call for the destruction of an entire group of people and not face the consequences. The consequences need to be there before Jews have to deal with the violence.
Well, Zina, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing these insights about the grim situation on Canadian campuses, but we'll hope for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.